Greetings and salutations. Welcome back. I got another showcase video. Create What I've been doing is as I play through the persistent universe, the survival gameplay, I realize that there are certain needs that I run into, and so what I'll do is when they do a server update or they do some kind of patching or maintenance where you're not able to play for whatever reason, I'll pop into single player creative mode and kind of work out some of those issues that I've been running into. And so one of my scenarios that I've been doing is I got the mule here, which is my kind of my Galaxy Explorer, where I hop around and I got the grow plots, but I've kind of been running into issues managing the correct plots to get the rations, the MRE, aka MREs. And the issue is I'll farm out something like 1,000 vegetables, but then I won't have enough buds. And so I'm doing a little bit of research. I've been talking to some of the community folks on what they use and how they do it, and I got a recipe kind of worked out. And so I built a solar farm. And the reason why I went with a solar farm is because even if I did a base and I ran it off of fuel, I noticed that I would have to go back and fuel. The most I could get out of it was like 30 hours. And I'm trying to get it to where the food has a little bit of more sustainability to where I don't have to worry about the maintenance. So I can go off and I can explore the galaxy and I can do all of my maintenance and then run my solar farm and kind of preload the MREs. And I want to convert that food into the MREs as quick as possible. And reason being is because if for whatever reason, if you have failure, your food expires. Because I moved everything over to one of my bases and and I came back the next day and everything was expired. And I couldn't figure out why it was expired. Like the refrigerators were on, it had power, but it was a solar base. And so luckily I had already converted 71 ration slash MRE pack. So it wasn't too bad. Like it wasn't a total loss. And I did take all that expired food and turned it into was it nitroglycerin or the fertilizer, the nitrite. I turned it all back into fertilizer. So it wasn't, by no means was it a catastrophic experience, but I couldn't figure out why it expired. And I don't know if it was because the base cycled or maybe there was a server update, and then I don't know, couldn't figure it out. So right now I like to use the Jeff Randall's MCRN theme. That's kind of what I'm rolling with. And I know there's kind of some backstory on this. So, in a military application, they'll use existing structures. Like they'll use a connex, and they'll use a connex for an operations center. They'll use a connex for a mechanic bay. Everything exists within those parameters of that connex. The dimensions of that connex. They build, their food chow halls are the same dimensions of the connex. The vehicle maintenance, same existence as the connex, and so forth and so. Everything can be modulated and loaded up on trains. So I'm trying to use that same logic, that same kind of design principle in the game. And so here I'm using Randall's base, and I've modified it out extensively. It's more solar related. And I got another video I'm going to do on solar. I don't want to keep the logic and the discussion points of solar out of this video for the most part. And I'm going to put it in my solar teleporter video, because I'm going to teleport through these different galaxies, and I'll go through an in-depth discussion on solar as I've kind of learned the process. But this is a Jeff Randall's base, and I've heavily kind of modified it, and I've like when I created took it into creative mode and replaced all the grow plots with just this scaffolding stuff, so it's easier to deploy into the game. And most of the time, what I end up doing is salvaging the grow plots out of capital vessels as just a way to kind of manage it a little bit better. And that's been my strategy. And I find that it's easier to deploy, and it's easier to get up and running earlier in the game, because grow plots, they used a couple different systems to make. Like there's more steps involved, and it's just painful early game. So that's like you can see here where I haven't put any grow plots in. And it also reduces the cost. Another thing that I've done is I've swapped out all the blocks from the carbon substrate to steel, because once you pull into the atmosphere and you're outside that first planetary base, steel, not only does it have more hit points, but it's easier to get. Carbon substrate, you have to go back down to the planet and you have to do quite a bit of planetary farming to sustain that carbon substrate input. But once you get into space, you'll notice that your nitroglycerin and your carbon substrate are actually become more of a scarce material, and you get a lot of steel through killing POIs and salvaging. So I'll and farming asteroids. So steel is much easier to come by. So I've converted these over to all steel, and it doesn't. And I've also upgraded it to the tier 3 CPU. I want to go to CPU and just show this, and it's still low. It's still 43. It still fits within the tier 3 CPU, and I even have the teleporter and one deconstructor. I didn't need. I'm sorry, furnace. I didn't need 2 furnaces. I just didn't have the volume output to justify 2 furnaces. And I put one deconstructor in here, and to be honest, I never use it, because when you play on a multiplayer server, you don't get the option to core stuff very often. There is some stuff you can core, but you can't core regular POIs. So anything that respawns in its existing place, you can't core. You can only core the stuff that spawns and then flies off and kind of like navigates the galaxy. So certain ships, like some of the frigates, you can do. Some of the corvettes and the pirate class ships you can do, but they're far and few between. They're not very common. So even the deconstructor is not super beneficial. I was actually contemplating pulling that out and just putting a 4th constructor in here, and then I've also put switches on everything, and that doesn't come with Randall's initial design, because I want to keep that power output as low as possible. Because if you're in a galaxy that doesn't have any sun, you will burn through. And I've also upgraded this thing to where it's got like 34,000 fuel, and this 34,000, where to go? This 34,000 fuel is only good for about 30 hours in a poor sunlight galaxy. So then, after 30 hours, all your crops die. And so that led me into the design path of this. So I kept all my original design changes, but what I did is I gutted out one of the space bases, the Randall space bases, and I created so it's steel, it's not carbon substrate, and I created and it's tier 2, but it's just a solar farm, and that's all that it is. I did have to put a generator in here. Let me show you that real quick. And I put, it's just all it is it's a bunch of refrigerators, and it still needs a little bit more refinement. But what I do is I get to about a 90% solution, and then I'll spawn it into the persistent universe, and I'll kind of live in it for 40 or 50 hours of gameplay to figure out what I need to change and what's working and what's not working, and then I'll save it again and then upload it to the workshop. And so while I was in creation mode, I just threw the tier 2 generator and the fuel tank in here, and it doesn't need it, but the reason why I threw it in there is because in the creation mode I was having issues generating energy, and my lights kept cycling, and while I was trying to edit the signage, I was having a hard time editing the signage, because it was I'd make a change and then it would cycle off, and then I would make a change and it would cycle off. So I was having I'd have to go back and double edit everything. So I figured out through one of the fuel station POIs that you could make signage this big. And so my sub story or my sub theme for this is that this is not actually a part of the MCRN Navy. This is more a contracting corporation that supports the MCRN actual military faction. And so, because a lot of times militaries will subcontract out responsibilities and obligations in order to kind of support some of their manning requirements. And so the corps get involved, right? And so they wear the same badging, but they're actually contractors. And so that's kind of the theme. The theme behind this is the corp. They're a corporation that is subcontracted out by the MCRN, so they're still protected under military kind of faction law, let's say. But kind of a little sub narrative that I've injected there. But it's I just kind of wanted to showcase the sign and show how I got it to look, and you can kind of see it. It's LCD, so you can see it. You can see it from a ways off, pretty good. And then also I've learned that you can stack batteries, and that's kind of the beauty with the solar. Is I didn't realize, I thought it was like all those panels for the one battery, but each battery gives you 1500. So I think I got 13 batteries in here, which is almost gives me 20,000. And you can see this thing charging up. And I haven't, when I go to my main, I don't have any fuel in here, and it's got enough solar to run. You can see it kind of gradually power left, 2.56 hours. And it's just climbing. And then max output is 2.5 kpu. It says current output 67.6. That's a lot. Consumption is 636, not even 1 kpu. And so it's pretty low power in there. And so you can just see my time right now. It's 3 hours. So when this fills up, I'll probably have 60 or 70 hours of energy run time. And that's with I wish there was a way that you could take solar, and then once you fill your batteries up, you could discharge your solar into a fuel source that you could use in your thrusters. Like take it and charge it up, and then pull it over to your fuel tank, or an electric condenser, and then transfer that over to your fuel tanks. But I put all these upside down to where they look like hydropods, like hydroponic pods. And I think it's got something like 8 or 9 refrigerators in here, because you can see refrigerator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 refrigerators. And reason being is to store. I did end up throwing 2 chests in here, and I wasn't initially, but I just went ahead and did the 2 16K chests, and I kind of tucked them in. And reason being is I did push out the grow pods initially, but I kind of ran into issue with the lighting not matching up and providing a full 6-pack, because right now each light covers 9 plots, and the way the lighting matched up, I shouldn't have said 6-pack. I should more like a 9-pack. The way it was lining up, it was only covering 6, and then I would have like a row not lit up, so to keep everything in uniform. And I think I'm still at 250 plots. So when I did the math on all the rations, basically it was like 80 buds, and 20 of each, or 40 of each other material to get my rations. And that's all this is designed to do, is to make rations. And it's supposed to be completely, there's no fuel that I have to put into it. There's no water that I have to put into it. Once I get everything planted, all I have to do is come and visit it. And I didn't bother working the signage until I did a little one here just to kind of get a vibe, and I just wrote corn on there just to kind of separate it from the rest of the other ones, because I'm even reusing the LCDs. So, but I kind of moved it around a little bit to test fit where I wanted it. So the idea is like put it in the middle of the 9-pack. So I put one there, I put one here, I put one here. And if this entire row is one plant, I'll just put it dead smack in the middle, and I'll just put corn. But if I fracture them up, let's say this is half plot, so maybe I'll do 16 total or something. I might split it halfway here. But the signage is going to move around a little bit based off of how I end up kind of structuring this thing. and it's a little short on this side too. I could squeeze out, but I wanted to leave gravity in here. Let me see. Do I have gravity on? Let's see. P. Right. I think I spawned it in with it off device. Right. J. There it goes. And I wanted to leave gravity, and that was the only thing I kept in here. And so so here's your view on this side, and then here I wanted to try to keep the view of the space, the galaxy, and really it's kind of more eye candy to look in than it is to look out. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna stop the video here. I got a couple more videos coming that are more based around um, warping and traveling, and I might gonna do that either tonight or I think I'm gonna go buy a bunch of beer and get drunk and make that video on satellite teleportation, right? Because if you're gonna travel through space, right? If you're gonna deatomize yourself and then reatomize yourself, you might as well do it with a six-pack of Guinness. But as always, leave feedback. Let me know what you think of the designs. I wish there was something a little bit more visually popping on the backside of here. Um, some kind of you can kind of see a little bit of a purple. It'd be cool if they added a way to add some tint to these, or some take the tint off if I wanted to, like clear the tint. That'd be nice. But yeah, this is where I'm at. So it's same modular design, same concept. I would also been contemplating doing is making a docking station. I've been thinking about. That's one of the things I love about this game is you think about something and you're like try to come up with active solutions. And one of my active solutions is if I wanted to make an air dock or an airlock, maybe that's the right word, airlock, where you have a ship like this, and then right here, obviously, let me turn the light on. I know the lighting in this, I have an airlock, right? I can go down in here and I can enter the vehicle. Well, if I had some other structure, like some tubular structure that I could place over this or retract or detract and line that up and somehow dock through that retraction and detraction, maybe I have to make it out of a CV and make it square and then have some kind of scaffolding and then place a core in there and a couple small jets and one jet in each direction in order to make this airlock design. And then I can move it around so I can link. Ideally, I'd like to figure out a way to link these together, and maybe I even make one of these where I pull the solar off of it because it's cargo. It's just a cargo storage, and I place it in such a way to where it's like directly right above it, and then I can air dock. Somehow airlock the between the two vehicles. Some type of mechanism to it's just something I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about as a solution. Maybe making some kind of landing gear and some kind of square tube with some doors on it. I don't know. I'm still kind of it's a puzzle. And that's where I'm at. But as always, let me know what you think. Give me some feedback if you like what I've done. Ooh, see, I forgot to texture it. And that's why I build these. That's why I was trying to do something else here in the front. I was trying to figure out how to make this like a larger pane and then wrap this up and keep that same texture and then have it bend like a 90 to 90 right degree and then a 90 right degree and then come back down. But I couldn't figure out a good solution for it. And then I also needed to throw in the elevator, so I just split the windows. But I'm pretty happy with it. But I'm gonna have to play around with crops, and my goal is just to make MREs or rations or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, thanks for watching.